Hello, everyone. My name is Christine, and I'm here today with Kristen, and this is our 33rd episode of a show we've called Walking the Path, where we just tune in and take a look at what's going on in our lives or what we're seeing in the world or the people around us. Both Kristen and I have been on a path of developing ourselves, just becoming who we are, greater love, caring, wisdom, getting to heal and forgive and release what we've carried from our family system, ancestors, etc., and get to step into that space of creation, of possibility, of beauty. And so curious about what we can be and do together and how we can come together and live well. So here we are today, and we'll explore the themes that arise and see where that takes us. So where would you like to begin today, Kristen? We've explored a few possibilities before we started the recording. What's jumping in as first priority?
Yeah, I am happy to be here, first of all, and I'm feeling right now like there's this importance for connection and in-person connection. I feel like a lot of us have, ignored, avoided, bent all the mandates and rules, just living our lives and being as respectful as we can be of the dynamic and varied opinions and views and perspectives and rules, whatnot. But I really feel like it's time for us to connect and make some collaborative kind of decisions, action plans, really working together with other people who we know and trust, who are of a similar knowing um, to each one of us. And it's tricky in a lot of situations right now to make that a reality. Not everyone's in a physical location where that's super possible. But as the days lengthen and the weather gets friendlier, it's just really like, how can we make this more possible? How can people find each other? What can we do together? It's kind of, for me, in the last year, and really through this winter, it's been like a to each their own, like every man for themselves kind of thing. Like, good luck, everybody. I hope you make it through the other side, whether that's because you've believed that there's a deadly virus that's going to get you, or that the antidote to this problem might save you, or it might get rid of you, or like there's so many varied reasons. But it really feels like the majority of humanity has retracted, kind of gone into their turtle shell, so to speak, and just been like self-preservation mode. And just maybe it's partly the spring energy. Maybe it's like another round of harsh restrictions on people, coming into basically a deja vu of this time last year. I'm just wondering how many people have had enough, and what they're going to do about it. I'm just really curious to see what choices people continue to make moving forward.
I think all of us are really becoming more and more curious about what does it mean to act from love, or what does it mean to act with wisdom and with care. As we know that the division is becoming more and more intense, and the polarization and the like not wanting to take a side while taking a side, while being more aligned with one side than the other, but not wanting to go in that for or against defensive sort of state. We don't want to get on a battlefield. Don't want to be in a war zone. So how do we navigate these times where certain things that we can foresee, things that are coming, will really create more division? Kind of whether you choose this or you don't, it means this, or it results in this, or if you want to do this, you have to jump through these hoops. And if you don't do it, sorry, you can't come in. Like, just the in group, out group. There's just so much that we can perceive that's prickly, or like walking on eggshells, or we have to be careful or avoid conflict or be gentle or be quote compassionate. But it does really feel like we're coming to that time where it's like It's just between you and you looking in a mirror and saying, what am I choosing for my life? Who am I? And who am I showing up as? Am I living in my integrity? Can I go to sleep at night feeling good about who I am and how I'm being in the world and with other people? Just a real time of truth within, not like how informed are we about the quote mainstream narrative or alternative narratives about what's happening. It's just the truth of being, right? Being in our integrity, living with care. And yeah, I think a lot of us can perceive various potentials looming that aren't so favorable for peace and unity and seeing and hearing and feeling each other, on a broader collective scale. So what can we be, do, and choose to say, well, I'm here for unity and I'm here for togetherness and I'm here to build a life and have closeness and intimacy. So how do we proceed? And I think a lot of us are really asking that at a very deep level.
Hmm. Yeah, I know I have been asking that question, for a whole year. And I've myself and my partner and I have taken various steps, especially over the last 6 months, to do our very best to ensure our own personal freedoms, outside of the collective accepted level of freedom that people seem to think they have in this country, which is really fascinating. But yeah, from my perspective, what I'm feeling and seeing is this funnel of control. There are all these checks and balances and these funnels that were all collectively sort of being ushered into. Some of us can see that and some of us cannot, and that's okay. I think that's exactly how it's supposed to be. I feel like there's a huge fork in the road here, and I've been sharing with a few people lately that from my perspective, it's too late. We're past the point of no return. If people have already seen the writing on the wall over the last year, but I mean decades maybe, then they're seeing one side of this, and if you're not privy to what else is going on and you just think that the people who are running the country are really concerned for all of us and our health and well-being, and you think that they've got the solutions to save us all, then that's your right to believe that. And we're all headed in two very different directions. And like you said, regardless, where's the love, the unity, the connection, the compassion, the kindness, the humility? I can see that a lot more on one side of the fence than the other right now. On one side, there seems to be a lot of blame and aggression, a lot of fear, a lot of anxiety, like a lot of contention. Like it's very tense. And on the other side, from my perspective, I'm seeing the desire for unity, love, connection. Yes, maybe a little pushback, a bit of rebellion, but truth. People are wanting truth, and they're concerned about their own freedom. And at this point, the people who are choosing the other exit ramp, to me, let's not put our energy and time into that anymore, because it's like that hour has passed. And it's hard to see people that haven't accepted that yet, and they're still trying so hard to convince, to convey, to sway someone's mental awareness. And we have to recognize, well, we don't have to, but I encourage the recognition that every human being is a sovereign individual, and as much as it seems to be coming from a place of love and caring and compassion for our human family. Like, we just have to allow each other to do what we do, right? I mean, it's forcing anything, whether we think it's for good or not, it just doesn't go well. And so, yeah, those are the awarenesses that I'm having right now. Anyway, I can say more, but I'll just take a breather.
Yeah. One thing I was looking at the other day is in the human mind that is in fear and separation, it looks like there's control on one side versus freedom on the other. And it's like the more you go towards control, the more you go away from freedom. The more you go towards freedom, the more you go like away from control. And there can be fear around a loss of control as being dangerous. There's fear around loss of freedom is dangerous. And so too much freedom, dangerous. Too much control, dangerous. And then this idea that there's a balance between the two, and there's a right balance. And if you go too much in one direction or the other, it's wrong and dangerous and bad, and negative things will happen. And that's a very, linear mental construct. And when we infuse love and the presence, the unity consciousness, you could say, that starts to harmonize opposites and alchemize opposites, it's like, wait a minute, when what's control is elevated or exalted in the condition of love, it actually becomes caring, which means I do care about the lives of the people around me. I very deeply care about the well-being of the bodies and the people around me. Like caring, right? I think what makes freedom dangerous is when there's no love present. And what that means is I don't care about anyone else. I deserve to do what I'm going to do. It's my right. And so they can bulldoze and harm and take no responsibility for that. Right. So that doesn't lead to good things. Someone acting from their freedom, from an entitlement, deserving, I have rights sort of place, can be very harmful to others. And that's often why people believe that freedom is dangerous, because it leads to harm. And then there's others who've had more wounding around control, where they're like, no, control leads to more harm, because the more control, you're dead. Like, why live? Why be here if we're going to be in a little cage or a box being fed biscuits? So they're like, no, we break the cage, get rid of the cage, freedom, freedom, freedom. So it's almost like, how do we kind of move, like alchemize, like bring our heart's wisdom, clarity, mind, like our intelligence into this enough to really see, okay, when you infuse enough love in this polarity dance, then it's like control becomes caring, which is I care for the well-being and best interests of myself and those around me. So, and I really care about freedom and being and expression. And without expression, without full breath, I'm not living. So we invite the fullness of breath and the expression of being, but it does take into account the well-being of others. So we do act in a way that does no harm, and as we refine our capacities and clear our traumas and all our misperceptions and distortions, that occurs naturally because others are a part of us. So if I harm someone, I can feel it in my being, my body, like I get the feedback, right? But those in fear and separation don't get the feedback. So they can do something and then be like, why are you hurting right now? What's wrong with you? It's like, you just were harmful towards me. That's why I'm hurting. That's what happens when someone acts in ways that's harmful. It hurts. But that all the feedback loops have been really broken in this sleep state of fear. So how do we really get this different conversation happening and like break out of the hell of that fear or freedom versus control duality that's polarizing us and making us basically almost like want to kill each other if we're in fear and separation, because they seem to be responsible for our demise. And then, no, they're responsible for our demise. No, they're responsible for our demise.
Yeah, it's a really concerning dilemma, and it's really hard to know exactly where this is going, but I can't help but really feel that it's part of the plan to divide. It's that whole like millennia old divide and conquer. When, I think really what we all desire, more or less, is connection and a certain amount of freedom and unity. I really do feel that that is what most human beings are truly searching for. Um, what I would say, unfortunately, right now, a large majority of people, I don't know if it's the majority. It's hard to know what's really going on. It feels like the majority of our population is, yeah, contracting, avoiding, judging, separating, blaming, pointing fingers, and, you know, waving the rules around and the science around. And it's definitely concerning. It's definitely concerning. And so how do we, you know, stand in our truth and remain loving and stay in that state of expansion and loving kindness, while not allowing ourselves to be a vulnerable target? It's a very fine balance in my experience. It's, you know, how much do you put yourself out there and expose yourself to the potential of attack and judgment and blame and finger pointing? You know, some days we have more resilience and energy than others. At some points we're like, I just don't want to go into that zone. Like, I don't want to stand like a target on a shooting range. Like, that's a really intense place to put oneself. um so yeah, I mean, personally, I've been erring on the side of uh remaining like low key in public places, um and finding the balance and saying how I really feel on places like social media, but doing it in a very curious, inquisitive way where I'm trying my best to not call anyone wrong or bad, you know, or whatever, but just inviting curiosity and inquiry of the people who see what I put up. And, you know, there are a lot of people who are thinking critically and who are really going out of their way to connect and co-create right now. And in most cases, other than some of the big rallies that have been happening across the world, in a lot of cases, it's happening quietly. I really feel a bit excited about these underground movements that are happening again. Part of me feels sad that that's where we're at, but it's been done before and it's led to very good things in the past. You know, that silent strength, that connection and that expansiveness without social media, without, you know, devices. And I really feel like that is a big part of the solution in the world, because if things are happening quietly, kind of underground, grassroots, people are connecting with each other, there's less room for misunderstanding and misinterpretation and division when people are actually, you know, sitting around a campfire, or, you know, sharing a meal, going for a walk together, and having these really important conversations that can be so easily misconstrued through digital devices. I really think that is one of the main answers to our prayers right now. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And really taking responsibility for our lives, what that means, you know, stepping into what can I be and do? What can we be and do? What do we really need to live well? And yeah, there's just so many old storylines, right, that are on replay that so many of us want to say, that's enough. You know, this cycle of trauma and abuse ends with me, you know, like we're the ones that stop. Just that perpetuation of those endless loops, right? That is about, how do we get rid of them? How do we keep them out? How do we make it so they can't prevent us? Like, it's just, oh, it's all about them and what we need to do to them, or get rid of them, like whoever the them or the they is. And we're so tired. So many of us are so tired of even bearing witness to that, even if, so say we've alchemized and transmuted a lot of that way of thinking and polarized thinking within ourselves and awaken the heart, but then to bear witness to it. Like, here we are again, and just recognizing how deep it goes and how deep the war mentality is still in the mentality of humanity, or just in the minds or in the bodies or whatever. There's just a lot of war still being perpetrated as the way it is. So yeah, how do we really go, okay, well, here we are, and yes, this is what I would like, is love, unity, care for life, honor, breath. And so to take those actions, not against anyone else, but just in the well-being of life, right? And essentially become that advocate of love, but that isn't against fear, because we recognize, yeah, fear is part of what brought us to where we are. Either we wanted to be free of it, or we couldn't live in an anxious, tight condition anymore. So we found the healers, found the tools, found the way to meditate and pray and do yoga and breathe and and move to like untangle ourselves from that. Yeah, I think it's just that ongoing, okay, where do we go from here? And not just hypothesizing, but living that answer every day. Oh, I'm doing this today. I'm connecting in this way today. I'm sharing this insight or idea today. But just where our life doesn't have to be about the for or against, even though some people may look and be like, oh, you're clearly against that. Okay, I'm not for this solution. It's true. But I'm not here living against this so-called solution. I'm just living what I know, what's true, what's alive, and wherever that takes me is where it takes me. When we can become more the agency and the agent in our lives.
Yeah. I love that. And, I really feel that's true. And now that you've said that, I'm realizing that is what I have a tendency to do myself a lot of the time. Instead of being like, no, this is bad, I'm against that, put your energy into things that you want to see grow and expand and improve. And that's really how a lot of us are living our lives all the time. Like even pre 2020, like, focus on your goals, focus on who you want to be and how you want to show up in the world and the reality that you would like to create for yourself, and for the people you love and the people that come into contact with you. And yeah, I just really love that as a focus, and definitely encourage people to explore that. What percentage of your time and energy each day over this last year have you put into fighting against what you don't want? And how much of it have you really sunk into with positivity and, really nurturing what you do want to see expand and grow in our world and in your own reality? It's it can be easy to slip into that fear, rage against the machine, no, we have to stop all these bad things. It can be so easy, and it's almost like an avalanche or like a big snowball rolling down a hill. Like it's easy to get swept into that if people that we respect and care about are in that mode. It's easy to get pulled along with it. And so, where are we all at? Are we still in that mode? Are we getting swept up into the drama and the swirl of what other people think and feel? Or are we really staying true to ourselves and focusing on the good, the love, the connection, the unity, the peace? Yeah, it's a great question.
Yeah, what was that? And more, we can expand to be aware of what we don't want. So we don't deny it or push against it. We just say, oh, I clearly don't want that. What do I want? And then we can pour our energy into what we do want. So we don't have to defend against or push away what we don't want. It's almost like there's just a natural thing where, the infamous what you focus on grows, and as we put our energy into something, it has a momentum. And then we're often, just like anything, the more, say, we practice self-love, we're called to places and spaces and food and people where that supports that. And we're naturally away from, the dingy bar and the sketchy corner. We're just not moved there anymore. So these things naturally happen. There's a natural movement as we cultivate the conditions within ourselves. So here we are, episode 33, 1st of April, 2021. Lots to think about, lots to be with. But yeah, it does feel more and more like the time of action. And all that means is putting into action who we are, what we know, what's true for us, and just living that. And stepping out of the for and against as much as possible, but knowing that often will be perceived as though we're against, or perceived as though we're in a camp. And we're like, well, I guess I am in a camp. And simultaneously, there's no camp and there's no war. And we're just here living. And this is just what's true for me. Like, this is just the food I'm going to eat. And I just can't eat that food. And it's just the way it is. So we could make that mean whatever we want to make it mean. But at the end of the day, I don't want to eat that food. I enjoy and choose to ingest this food. We can make that mean whatever we make that mean. So, so hopefully we can each find our way to the food, the people, the places, and the things that nourish us and support us to come into greater love, unity, connection, and beauty. And awaken the genius within us and cultivate our expression of that in the world. So thank you all for joining in for this 33rd episode of Walking the Path. Thank you for being with me, Kristen. And I wonder where we can go from here and what can wake up within us to really inspire us to live well and express who we are in the world.